Hello and welcome to the 30k channel dedicated to games set in the Horus Heresy. I'm your host, David Brains, and today I've been joined by Josh and Nick. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Excellent. We have got one hell of a fight on for you today. We have got Mechanicum, or Nuka Mechanicum, we should say.
Yeah.
And Imperial Fists. Gents, before we start the game, both forces are brilliant. Really well painted.
Well, I can't take the credit for that.
I mean, the Mechanicum were commissioned by Liam at Phoenix Commissions.
That's correct.
And there was a theme around the army?
Yes, it's all Fallout based. So if you've played the games, you'll know what I mean. But
Cool.
a lot of it has like Nuka-Cola across it. So there is a real tie-in between the models in Fallout and the Mechanicum models. So.
Yeah, and Liam has done a fantastic job painting. The red on there looks fantastic. So awesome army though. Good on you for commissioning it. Nick, you've done some really great Imperial Fists. Really awesome colour scheme. You must be pretty pleased with them.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a bit of a labour of love and swearing. And I've tried to mix it up with some of the veterans being in the older grey pre-heresy scheme. You'll see more with the Phalanx Warders later. And trying to reflect some of the fluff about my army having been cobbled together. So slightly different yellows on some of the tanks to reflect newer models with the Mark 6 armour. So yeah, I'm pretty happy, but the mistakes are all mine.
We've got a really interesting game. We've got a ton of vehicles versus a ton of robots. I mean, what more of a matchup could you want from that? I mean, I think it's been quite an interesting game. If we look at the mission that we're doing a Vanguard strike with Dominion, and we've gone for the 3 objectives rather than the 5, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Gents, if we look at deployment, what's the Mechanicum doing? Tell me a little bit about your deployment.
Okay, so there's a couple of different objectives, obviously, across the map. So I tried to kind of anchor the right-hand side for me with some of my tougher units. So to push out and try and potentially get this objective. And then with the other 2 objectives, they're a bit closer to my deployment. So I put some like squishier kind of long-range firepower over there to kind of keep him back and just sit on top of it. So.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky in Mechanicum. Legio Cybernetica is always tough because the Castellax are denial, and the only scoring you've got is the Thalax and the 2 squads of 20 Tech Thralls.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
So, you've got 1 unit of Tech Thralls in the Triaris, which are fairly well secure, but the 20 man that are walking, they're a bit squishy, on their own.
Yeah. I mean, I've got the Fearless, so that does help, but yeah, it could be a little bit squishy.
But Nick, I think it's going to be a really tough decision for you. Do you play to the mission, go for the objective? But if you don't deal with the scoring troops and ignore the Castellax and the Thanatars, then they are going to do you late game, aren't they? So it's going to be about target priority, I think, for the Fists.
Absolutely. I'm trying to balance a sort of a natural inbuilt urge to build a castle, especially with all this sand lying around.
That's true.
I'm just going to set up base camp here. I've got some pretty meaty tanks with some good armour and some fairly heavy weaponry, so I think the plan is to try and stronghold the objectives, try and get there, if not first, then at least subtly second, and barge through. I've got some nasty flamers in a Lamb Raider, which should hopefully deal with some squishy infantry.
Yeah.
And I think most of the heavyweight tanks, I guess the idea is hit the objective, roll on past, and let the troops follow up in rhinos and take them.
Yeah. I mean, both battle lines look really formidable, and you'll see that on the camera. You've got that massive wall of armour from the Imperial Fist, and then you've got the really agile sort of robots, which is going to be really interesting, the automata there. There's 2 things I want to pull out about the Imperial Fist. The first thing is you've got 2 sabres as well, which is really cool. Smaller than a rhino, who knew?
Yeah, they seem to be like, I don't know, some games designers' heretical wet dream. They're pretty nasty for a super cheap unit and a tiny unit.
Yeah,
they're actually pretty effective on the table, I'm hoping. I've only used them once so far, and they were great. So I'm hoping that in terms of nipping across the board and scoring some quick hits, they're pretty effective.
I think the AP4 on the autocannons is quite key because a lot of your units are armor 4, so it will help peel them out early game.
Absolutely.
And then finally, you've taken the Arcus, but you've not taken I don't remember the name of the shells, I do apologise. The anti-Mechanicum shells, we'll call them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that was basically a decision rooted in the fact that, as I said earlier, with the fluff of this army being kind of multiple task forces that have been slammed together over the years. Just every time they get whittled down, they get added together. Yes, they've come to Mars. They're trying to seize some objectives. In my head, that's replenishing newer marks of armor, hence the Mark 6 tactical troops. But really, you don't know what you're going to be facing on any given day, so you just got to fight the battle you end up with, not the one you plan for.
I mean, that's a really good point. We could have easily have tailored the list to deal with Mechanicum. The matchup wasn't decided until fairly recently, so I think it's good and very sporting that you haven't tailored your list. So good on you for not doing that. But if there are any comments saying, "Oh, we should have taken the,"
we can take a view at the end of the game on that.
That's a good point.
We can refilm this scene.
Maybe we should. So good on you for doing that. But I think the initial missiles on it are quite formidable anyway. So
yeah, they're pretty nasty. Hopefully,
yes. We'll also see. We're going to go into these lists, work out exactly what's been taken, and then we'll see at the beginning of turn 1. Now, before we get going, the Mechanicum decided to deploy first, go first.
Mm-hmm.
Keen to get that Thanatar and the Darkfire across the board.
Need all the firepower I can get, really, I think. So.
I reckon. There's a lot of armour to stop.
That's true.
But the Imperial Fists are up for a seize, aren't they?
We certainly are. So I'm hoping we're going to get it. And of course, we only get a 4.
That is a 4. Unlucky. All right, so we're going to go straight into the lists, work out what we've got, and then we'll see you at the beginning of Mechanicum turn 1.
2,500 points of Imperial Fists, led by Alexis Pollux. His warlord trait is Master Tactician. Alexis Pollux is a special character. He wears void-hardened power armor. He carries an iron halo, a master-crafted power fist, a combi melter, and a vigil pattern storm shield, which is the Imperial Fist special pattern. He is a master of the Legion and has special rules like hammer blow, and his warlord trait is Master Tactician. The Army's second HQ is a chaplain carrying a Crozius Arcanum, an Artificer armor, and a combat shield, and he'll be attached to the Flamer's Tactical Support Squad for the battle. The Legion Apothecary accompanies the Phalanx Warder Squad in the Spartan. The second elite's choice is the Rapier Quad Launcher with Shatter Shells. The first troop's choice for the Army is a Legion Tactical Squad with a Sergeant in Artificer armor and Power Fist. They are riding in a Rhino. The second troop's choice is a tactical squad, again with a sergeant with Artificer armor and Power Fist, also in a Rhino, with no upgrades. Third troop's choice is a Legion Tactical Support Squad, 9 Marines carrying Flamers. They also all carry chainswords. They will be riding into battle in the Land Raider Phobos, accompanied by the chaplain. The first fast attack option is a Landspeeder Squadron with 2 Landspeeders, each equipped with multi-melter and graviton gun, and both carrying 2 hunter-killer missiles. The second fast attack option is a squadron of Sabre strike tanks. They both carry the Anvilus Snub autocannon, a hull-mounted heavy bolter, and they carry 4 Sabre missiles each. The third and final fast attack choice is a squad of Phalanx Warders, 11 Marines wearing hardened armor and carrying boarding shields. They ride to battle in a Legion Spartan assault tank, which is equipped with 2 quad las cannons and a twin-linked heavy bolter, as well as armoured ceramite. The first heavy support choice is a Sicaran Arcus strike tank with a twin Arcus launcher and a heavy bolter. The second heavy support choice is a Sicaran battle tank with twin-linked accelerator autocannon and heavy bolter. It is also equipped with las cannon sponsons. The third and final heavy support choice is a Land Raider Phobos, a Mark IIB. It carries twin-linked las cannons and a twin-linked heavy bolter.
2,500 points of Legio Cybernetica, led by a Magus Dominus with the warlord trait Perfected Targeting. HQ for the Mechanicum is a Magus Dominus. He's equipped with an augury scanner, a Masticator array, and a power axe. The second HQ choice is another Magus Dominus with again another array and a power axe. The first troops unit for the Mechanicum is a unit of 20 tech thralls. They've got the upgrade of the Rite of Pure Fault, which gives them Fearless, and they're inside a Treos armoured conveyor with extra armour. They're equipped with Mitralox. The next troop unit for the Mechanicum is another unit of 20 tech thralls with Mitralox, and again they've got the Rite of Pure Fault. The next troop unit for the Mechanicum are a unit of 2 Castellax. They're completely stock with Mauler bolt cannons. Another troop unit for the Mechanicum is a unit of 2 Castellax. They're equipped with Darkfire cannons,
and upgraded to have enhanced targeting arrays. The next unit for the Mechanicum is another unit of 2 Castellax with darkfire cannons, and again they've got enhanced targeting arrays. The final troop unit for the Mechanicum is a unit of Phalanx cohort. They've been equipped with a photon thruster and have been upgraded with the destructor upgrade. The first fast attack option is a single Vorax. He's been given bio-corrosive ammunition on his rotary cannons, and he's also equipped with a lightning gun. The next fast attack unit for the Mechanicum is a unit of 6 Uzurax. 2 have lightning claws, 4 have power fists. The final fast attack option for the Mechanicum is a Voltarax with no upgrades. The first heavy support for the Mechanicum is a Thanatar Siege Automata with a Helix Plasma Mortar and a twin-linked Mauler Bolt Cannon. The final heavy support selection for the Mechanicum is a Knight Armiger. He's equipped with a Armiger Thermal Spear and a Dreadnought Close Combat Weapon. Mechanicum movement phase turn 1. The Armiger moved forward 6 inches to potentially try and shoot at the Spartan. The Trias Armoured Conveyor stayed still, being kept in reserve. The Uzurax jumped forward behind the rock as a potential counterpunch to whatever comes forward. The Thanatar stayed still to get the 48 inches of range on his Helix Plasma Mortar. The Tech Files moved forward 6 inches, going towards the new objective in the middle of the board. The Castellax joined them to try and get some range on the mortar. The Voltarax zoomed forward 24 inches in order to be able to get his Haywire Arc Blaster within range. The Castellax shifted 6 inches backwards as to stay out of range of the double tap from the Arcus Sakaran tank. The Phalanx moved forward 6 inches towards the other objective, and the Vorax was a little bit scared, so he moved forward 6 inches just behind line of sight. Mechanicum turn 1 shooting. The Armiger fired his thermal spear at the Spartan, but unfortunately missed. The Voltarax, using the Rite of Destruction Cyberphagy from the Majorus Dominus, shot 6 shots, hit 4 times, and glanced twice against the Saber tanks. The Thanatar fired its Helix Plasma Mortar over at the Saber tanks. With the scatter, it managed to clip both tanks, wrecking one and causing a single hull point on the other. The result on the pen table was a shaken result, which means it's snap firing next turn. The Castellax shot their Mauler pattern bolt guns at the quad mortar. Unfortunately, no damage was caused. The Tech Frails ran forward 5 inches, managing to get on top of the objective for next turn. The Castellax fired their Darkfire cannons into the Arcus strike tank, 3 of which hit, and unfortunately against the front armour of the strike tank did no damage. The Castellax fired their Darkfire cannons at the Saber tanks. Unfortunately, 3 of the shots got hot, and 1 of the armour saves were failed on the right Castellax. The single hit, unfortunately, did not manage to do any damage to the Saber tank. The Phalanx shot the Photon Thruster at the Arcus strike tank from 2 hits, 1 of which glanced, so caused 1 hull point. Mechanicum turn 1 assault phase. The Phalanx used their jetpack move to be able to get just within the objective range. Overall, that was a decent enough turn for the first turn. The Mechanicum are in a good position for some of the objectives. However, firepower wasn't quite as good.
Imperial Fist's movement turn 1. The Spartan advanced onto the objective. They saw the opportunity to build a castle, and so they have, hoping to do some effective shooting around the major rock in front of it. The Rhino followed up, obviously a little bit slower, but heading towards that objective with a tactical squad inside. The Mark II Land Raider moved forward 6 inches towards the infantry in front of it, hoping to shoot them off the objective, and if that doesn't work, the Sikaran next to it is hoping to shoot over the big rock and do some damage with the accelerator autocannons. The mortar stayed in place, The first sabre advanced, leaving its stricken brother behind, went far forward, hoping to block some line of sight and do some shooting. Followed, the Rhino took a difficult terrain test and passed no issue, and the Arcus is just behind, following up, just to better establish line of sight. Imperial Fist shooting, turn 1. The Spartan advanced 12 inches. It fired its first las cannon array, snap shooting, and missed. It used Power of the Machine Spirit for the second array to fire at full rate, scored 2 hits, 1 pen, and a result of shaken. The quad mortar targeted the tech thralls directly in front of it. It was obviously blinded by some glint off their weapons as the frag shell scattered. Managed to hit 7, but only kill 3 when they made their rolls. The Arcus fired its 4 missiles at the Castellax in front of it. It scored 2 hits, 1 wound. The other was saved on the invuln. The Shaken Sabre targeted the Thalax with both the Ambulus snub cannon and the heavy bolter, but in both cases failed to hit. The Sakaran unloaded all of its weaponry on the Voltarax, but only one of the accelerator autocannons managed to hit and scored a wound. After the wound, the Voltarax passed its grounding test. The Land Raider targeted the tech thralls in front of it. The Machine Spirit obviously decided that the las cannons were being underserved as they only managed to kill 1. The heavy bolters fired 3 shots again at the tech thralls, this time killing 2 when 1 was saved by its Feel No Pain. Both Rhinos used the flat-out rule to advance on the objective 6 inches. At the end of the first turn, the Imperial Fists have made some solid movement on the board, killed a few things but not nearly as many as they'd hoped, and are in a strong position to hold objectives for the second turn.
Mechanicum movement phase turn 2. The Armiger moved forward towards the Spartan. The rest of the Mechanicum force shifted to defend the other 2 objectives. The Castellax moved back in order to stay out of range of the double tap of the Arcus. The Phalanx jumped up to make sure they're all within 3 inches of the objective. The Vorax moved round, potentially going to get a charge. And the Uzurax jumped over the rock in order to be able to charge the Land Raider. Mechanicum turn 2 shooting. The Phalanx shot at the Rhino. The 2 lightning guns got 0 hits. However, the photon thruster hit once, and with the destructor upgrade was able to pen, causing a stunner result. The Voltarax targeted the Rhino with one of its 2 Havoc launchers, scored 2 hits, one of which was a glance. The Vorax shot its lightning gun at the Rhino, causing 1 glancing hit. However, the cover save of the tank in front was made. The reason for targeting the Rhino was to open it up to allow the Castellax to shoot at the occupants. The Magus Dominus tried to cast the Rite of Destruction Cyberthurgy onto the Thanatar. Unfortunately, failed that. However, using the Twin Link special rule, I was able to get a glance onto the Rhino, which wrecked it, and was able to pen the Saber tank, which shook it and caused a hull point. The Armiger targeted the Spartan. From being shaken from the previous turn, it was hitting on 6s, managed to score the hit, however, did not score the glance. The Magus Dominus used the Battlesmith special rule to restore the wound on the Castellax. The 4 Castellax then shot 8 shots into the Arcus strike tank, one of which penned, and a 5-up cover save was not made. The roll for the damage table was then a 6, and due to the AP2 of the weapon, was able to blow it up. The Magus Dominus then cast the Rite of Fury onto the Vorax to give it +2 to its attacks. The Castellax shot their Mauler pattern bolt cannons at the quad mortar artillery piece and caused 1 wound as a result. Mechanicum assault phase turn 2. The Knight Armiger charged into the Spartan. The Uzurax charged into the Land Raider Mark B. The Vorax charged into the Saber tank. and the Phalanx charged into the tactical squad. However, 1 wound was caused as a result of Overwatch. The Knight Armiger, in close combat with the Spartan, used its Dreadnought close combat weapon to get 3 hits, and 1 of which was a glance, 2 of which were pens. Both results from the pens were shaken. The Uzurax against the Mark II Land Raider struck out with 16 Power Fist attacks and managed to score 9 hits, 5 of which were penetrating hits, and I was able to destroy the Land Raider, which is a great result.
Close combat between the Imperial Fist Tactical Squad and the Phalanx. The Phalanx had already lost 1 wound, so when the Imperial Fist, striking at Initiative 4, hit with their chainswords, 18 attacks, 12 hits, and 2 wounds, killing 1 Phalanx.
Striking at Initiative 2, the Phalanx attacked back against the Tactical Squad. At Initiative 2, the Phalanx attacked back against the Imperial Fists. With 6 attacks, they were able to score 4 hits, 2 of which wounded, but armour saves were made.
At Initiative 1, the Imperial Fist Sergeant struck out with his Power Fist, scored 2 attacks, 2 hits, 2 wounds. As his opponents are stubborn, although they won the combat, the Phalanx remains in place, and the combat will continue.
The Vorax, attacking against the Saber Tank, struck out with a massive 6 attacks. This was due to the Rites of Fury cast on him earlier on in the turn. He was able to score 5 hits and got 2 penetrating hits through, causing the Saber Tank to be wrecked. Amazing turn 2 for the Mechanicum. Really pushed out the Imperial Fist, trying to hold back them from the objective while sitting on it themselves.
Imperial Fist's movement turn 2. The Landspeeder Squadron made their reserves roll and came in. They're targeting the unit directly in front of them. The Tactical Squad is locked in combat, so stayed in place. And the Flamer Support Squad that had to evacuate from the Land Raider in the previous turn have moved round to bring their Flamers to bear, as many as possible on the unit directly ahead of them. Then on the far side of the board, the Spartan moved around, bringing all its guns to bear on the Armiger in front of it, and the Rhino pulled forward to the objective, and the squad disembarked to hold the objective. Imperial Fist shooting, turn 2. The Spartan had been shaken, so used Power of the Machine Spring to bring 1 quad array online. It fired at the Armiger in front of it, scoring 1 hull point and leaving it immobilised. Snap shooting the other las cannon array and the heavy bolters in the hull directly ahead at the Thanatar all failed to hit. The Imperial Fist Tactical Support Squad used their Flamers to score 27 hits on the Ursarax in front of them, for which they received only 9 wounds. They made 6 saves, with 4 wounds going through. It killed 1 Ursarax and leaving 1 with 2 wounds remaining. Shooting at the same unit of Ursarax, the Accelerator autocannon on the Sikaran scored 4 hits, which became 2 wounds, killing an Ursarax. It then used the las cannon sponson that had a line of sight to score 1 more wound. The quad launcher used its frag shells into the tech thralls who were holding the objective. It hit 4 and killed 3. The 2 landspeeders who'd come in from reserves, firing their graviton guns, the multi-melters, and the all 4 hunter-killer missiles, only managed to score 1 wound on the unit directly ahead. Then the chaplain lobbed a crack grenade at the Ursarax in front of it, scoring an additional wound. Imperial Fist turn 2 assault phase. The Tactical Squad charged, taking 1 Overwatch hit, which they saved from the multi-melter on the Armiger. They're hoping to use their crack grenades to defeat its armour. The Flamer Support Squad charged the Ursarax in front of them. They also took Overwatch fire, but made all their saves. The Tactical Squad threw 9 crack grenades at the Armiger, taking its remaining hull points and leaving it destroyed. Its return attack was ineffective. After winning the combat, the Tactical Squad consolidated 5 inches back onto the objective. In combat between the Flamer Support Squad and the Ursarax, they made 27 attacks with their chainswords, giving 18 hits, and with their reroll from the Zealot, scoring 21 hits. This left them 8 wounds, which came down to 3 after the saves. This killed 1 Ursarax and reduced 1 Ursarax to 2 wounds.
At Initiative 2, the single Uzarak left with a pair of lightning claws, struck back against the tactical support squad, scored 3 hits, 3 wounds, and because of AP 3 lightning claw, 3 kills.
At Initiative 1, the chaplain lashed out with his Crozius Arcanum in the form of a power axe, scored 4 wounds, killing 1 Ursarax and reducing 1 to 1 wound.
At Initiative Step 1, the Uzarax decided to punch back into the tactical support squad. They hit 4 times, did 4 wounds, and killed 3 tactical support squad members. The final hit was bravely saved on the chaplain's boarding shield.
At the end of the round, the Imperial Fists had 1 combat, the Ursarax were routed, and they swept forwards, wiping them out and onto the objective. In the combat between the tactical squad and the Thalax in front of them, we threw 18 attacks forwards, 12 hits, scoring 1 wound, which was promptly saved.
At Initiative 2, the Thalax swung back against the tactical squad. They hit 3 times, wounded twice, and 1 Imperial Fist squadron member was killed.
At Initiative 1, the Imperial Fist Sergeant struck with his Power Fist, causing 2 wounds, and causing the Thalax unit to take a leadership test, which they failed. The Imperial Fists swept forward, wiping out the unit and taking the objective. Making a surprising comeback in combat, the Imperial Fists have really turned the turn around. Much stronger position, now holding or contesting all 3 objectives on the board, and in a much happier position than they had been at the end of the previous turn.
Mechanicum turn 3. The Voltrex turned 90 degrees and headed towards the Spartan in order to potentially take that out. The Tech Thralls disembarked after the Trial Armoured Conveyor moved 6 in order to try and hold the middle objective. The Castellax moved forward towards the other tactical squad. The other squad of Castellax moved towards the land speeders. And overall, we're just trying to secure these objectives. Mechanicum turn 3 shooting. The Vorax shot into the tactical squad with its corrosive ammunition from its rotary cannons, killing 1. The lightning gun unfortunately missed.
Great.
The Castellax fired 8 bolt gun shots into the tacticals. From this, they were able to kill 1 tactical marine. They then opened fire with their Mauler pattern bolt cannons. This killed the sergeants, and because this weapon has pinning, it pinned the squad as a leadership test was failed. The Tech Thralls shot at the tactical support squad. Using their Mitralocks, they were able to shoot 22 shots, 7 of which were hits, and they caused 6 wounds with the Shred special rule. The chaplain decided to try and take the wounds, however unfortunately 2 went through and the chaplain was slain. The Castellax opened fire with their Darkfire cannons against the land speeders. The Imperial Fist jinked, however 2 penetrating hits were able to go through, one of which was an explode result, which killed 1 land speeder. The other one was a weapon destroyed result, which disabled the graviton gun. The turret of the Trios Armoured Conveyor then swung round to target the tactical support squad, gunning 2 of them down through 2 wounds at AP3. The Volkite Sentinels, acting independently, then tried to shoot the back of the land speeder, but no damage was caused. The Majorus Dominus targeted the Volterax with the Rite of Destruction Cyber Vergy. This allowed the Volterax to fire 6 shots into the Spartan, 5 of which hit, and 4 of which penetrated, which forced the occupants to emergency disembark. The Majorus Dominus then healed the Castellax in front of him, which suffered a wound from the Gets Hot result previously. He then cast the Rite of Fury Cyberphagy rule onto the closest Castellax there, which gives him another 2 attacks in combat. The Thanatar, with help from the Majorus Dominus using his Warlord trait Perfected Targeting, targeted the Warden squad. From a 5 hit underneath the blast template, 2 were slain. The twin-linked Mauler bolt cannon then killed a further 1 after Feel No Pain. The last bit of the shooting phase was to run the Tech Thralls This was to avoid fire later on, but from the quad mortar. Turn 3 assault phase for the Mechanicum. The Tech Frails charged into the Legion support squad with the Flamer. The Overwatch killed one Tech Frail after Feel No Pain, and they have made contact with him. The Vorax could not quite draw line of sight to the tactical squad, so was unable to charge. The Castellax unfortunately failed a 5-inch charge, rolling a 4, and the other squad of Castellax made it into combat with the Land Speeder, but at Initiative 10, Hammer of Wrath took it out.
Striking at Initiative 4, a very angry tactical support marine managed to kill one Tech Thrall with his chainsword.
Tech Frails zealously whacked down the last tactical support member with 14 attacks, causing 5 wounds and a failed armor save. The Tech Frails then consolidated 6 inches just to go back on top of the objective. End of turn 3 for the Mechanicum. Overall, in quite a good position. If the Castellax would have made the charge against the tactical squad, they would have contested that objective for the Imperial Fist next turn. But overall, still quite happy.
Imperial Fist movement, turn 3. The Sicaran has moved forward and slightly to the left to try and line up on the Tech Thralls holding the objective. The tactical squad, or what's left of it, has moved forward slightly onto the objective. They passed their leadership test, so they were able to move 3 inches and move a little closer to the objective and hopefully line up some bolter shots. The tactical squad have, against the odds, held the objective and so scored 1 point at the start of this turn. Moving round the board, the far side tactical squad have also held their objective and scored a point, and when in their movement turn have just slightly redeployed to bring their weapons to bear on the attacker from behind. The warders have, enraged by their losing their vehicle, decided to start storming through the desert sand and line up bolter shots on the enemy warlord. The warders, realising their shots can't do any damage, have spread out and running forwards 4 inches to try and get into combat at some point in the next 2 turns. The quad launcher fired at the Tech Thralls. The large blast went off in the middle, scoring 7 kills from 9 wounds. The Imperial Fist Tactical Squad used the Fury of the Legion to launch 36 bolter shots at the enemy drone coming towards them. They hit 10 hits and scoring 1 wound, which was then saved. So the Sicaran accelerator autocannons fired at the drone. They hit twice and scored 1 wound. The las cannon failed to hit. Opening up with snap shooting but rapid fire bolters, the tactical squad failed to hit anything in front of them. The Rhino pilot, infuriated by everyone else's failure to hit, span his bolters round, opened up with both, and managed to score 1 hit on a 6 and a wound, but it was saved. Really difficult turn for the Imperial Fists. Not a lot of progress was made, but did score the 2 victory points at the start of the turn. Doubt they will survive a 4th turn.
Mechanicum turn 4 movement phase. The Volterax dropped into hover to line up some shots for the shooting phase. The first unit of Tech Frails stood still on the objective. The second unit of Tech Frails moved towards the objective the Imperial Fists are on. The other Mechanicum units went to support them in removing the Imperial Fists from that objective. The other unit of Castellax on the right side of the board moved to get line of sight on the Warden squad, and the rest of the Mechanicum stuff lined up shots also on that Warden squad. Mechanicum shooting phase turn 4. The Thanatar, using the Warlord trait of the Magus Dominus, as well as a Cyberfergy Rite of Destruction, shot its Helix Plasma Mortar into the Warden squad. This took 7 of them out after the 6 invulnerable saves. The Thanatar then opened up with its twin-linked Mauler bolt cannon and took out a remaining one warden that was in range. The Trios armoured conveyor then opened up with its smaller pattern bolt gun, and from lookout sirring the wounds, Alexis was able to tank all of them. Combined firepower from the Vorax and Castellax with the bolt cannons and the lightning guns and rotary cannons were able to kill 4 tactical members. After the firepower from both of the units, the Imperial Fists failed a morale test, and so are running 3 inches towards the closest board edge. The Tech Fraus then ran 6 inches to claim the objective. The Castellax shot 2 shots each into the quad mortar with their dark fire cannons. Unfortunately, none were able to wound the quad launcher, and 1 got hot, causing a wound on the front Castellax. The single Castellax that could see pivoted round and fired his dark fire cannon up at the quad launcher on the hill, taking it out once and for all. The Voltarax fired its 2 Havoc launchers into the tactical marines. 12 hits were caused and 4 tactical members were slain. Mechanicum assault phase turn 4. The Vorax quickly ran after the last surviving member of the tactical squad, catching him with his Hammer of Wrath and striking him down. The Vorax then consolidated 5 inches. And overall, the Mechanicum are in a really solid position as of turn 4. The Castellax and Vorax did what I wanted them to do last turn, so overall, very happy.
Imperial Fist turn 4 movement. The tactical squad, having fired Fury of the Legion last turn, have stayed static this turn. Their Rhino transport has turned around to bring its bolters to bear. Alexis Pollock and his accompanying apothecary have moved 6 inches out of line of sight of their previous attackers and hoping to remain alive for the following turn and fight another day. The Sakaran has moved past a difficult terrain test to move through to the centre of the board, hoping to start killing units currently holding the middle objective. Additionally, the tactical squad, still on this objective, have camped out and scored another victory point. Imperial Fist turn 4 shooting phase. The tactical squad couldn't fire, having fired Fury of the Legion. Their Rhino shot twice at the drone and missed. Alexis Pollock and the apothecary both opened up with their bolt pistols, hit but didn't wound. In the centre of the table, the Sakaran opened fire with its las cannons and killed 1 of the tech thralls, then opened up with the accelerator autocannon, killing 4 more, for a total of 5. There's 1 tech thrall left on the objective. It failed to do anything at all with its heavy bolter. Alexis Pollock fired his combi melter at the drone and took 1 wound off it. The apothecary fired his bolt pistol and did nothing. Imperial Fist assault phase turn 4. Pollock's made an incredible 10-inch charge across the board and is now in combat with the drone.
At initiative step 4, there were 2 attacks from the Voltarax, however, they failed to wound.
The apothecary, striking at initiative 4, failed to hit. Alexis Pollock, making sure he used his full attacks to their full advantage, 3+1 for the charge, struck out with his Solarite Power Gauntlet, and dealt 2 fatal wounds to the drone. After killing the Voltarax, Pollock's consolidated 5 inches back towards the middle objective. He's determined to try and get there in the next turn. Overall, this turn seems some remarkable bits of action for the Imperial Fists. I think none of us can quite believe that they're holding on as well as they are. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in the next turn as it develops.
Mechanicum turn 5 movement phase. The tech thrower was pulled back a little bit just to keep on that objective, but try and remain as safe as he can. Everything else has shifted to try and defend these objectives and keep hold of them. The Castellax have all lined up sight, either to Alexis or to the Sakaran. And finally, the Trios is pushing up the right flank to get some shots off at the tactical squad holding the Imperial Fist objective. Mechanicum turn 5 shooting phase. The first group of Castellax shot into the side armour of the Sakaran and glanced it a single time. Next, the second unit of Castellax, using the Warlord traits, were able to get a single penetrating hit on the Sakaran battle tank, which managed to roll a 6 for the damage result, and because the weapon is AP2, destroyed it. The Trios Armoured Conveyor shot its twin-link Mauler pattern bolt cannon into the Imperial Fist Tactical Squad, killing one after a cover save was made for the other. The Castellax shot through the gap between the Mark II Land Raider wreck and the rock, and were able to find their target on Alexis. They wounded 4 times, and unfortunately for the Imperial Fists, each wound went through, and Alexis and the Apothecary were slain. That's great for the Mechanicum. End of the turn 5 for Mechanicum. After killing the Warlord, Alexis, the Mechanicum are in a really strong position here and are wondering what the Imperial Fist can do to make a comeback, if any, so it'll be interesting to see.
Imperial Fist turn 5. The last remaining tactical squad is still holding its objective, camped out with its Rhino. Everyone else has been killed or fled the field, and that's pretty much it. We rolled for the random game length and didn't go forwards, so that is the game. We'll be back after totaling up the scores.
Imperial Fist versus Mechanicum. That was a very, very dramatic game. The battlefield is littered with Imperial Fist armour. And standing triumphantly are the automata of the Mechanicum. What a hell of a game.
Absolutely.
It was really good.
Lots of stuff died.
It certainly did. Most of it yellow.
We're going to do the Vitch points straight away, then we'll get into the guts of the game. Let's remind ourselves we were playing Dominion, so you score a point at the beginning of each turn for every objective you hold. The Imperial Fist did a fantastic job. Bit of a late bloomer, I feel.
I think that's fair.
But you managed to score 4 Vitch points at the end of the game, so congratulations. Good work. Mechanicum, though. You're a beast. Early game snatch with the 10,000 centre board, but total score of 5 objectives, which was really good. But you got Warlord for taking out Alexis Pollux on turn 5 with the Dark Fire Cannon.
That was cheeky.
Through the crack between the Rock and the Rhino, the Land Raider. And you also got attrition for killing 10 units to 4.
Absolutely.
Dirty. 2d3 rolls. Okay, so that is a 3 and a 4, which is 4 more Vitch points. So the final score is 9 to the Mechanicum and 4 to the Imperial Fists.
Absolutely.
It was great. Really good fun.
Josh, let's talk about your game, because I think you played an amazing game.
Thank you.
You did some cyberthurgy.
I did lots of cyberthurgy.
That worked really well for you, I think.
Yeah, having the 2 units. I've only ever had the Thanatar. I've never used the Voltrax before. But having 2 units to kind of bounce it off really helped. In the past, when I've used it, obviously you've used it on a Thanatar and then it hasn't been able to fire the next turn. So you kind of think, oh, should I use it? Should I not? But when there's 2 units and you think, one of them might die anyway, you can kind of juggle it a bit more. And yeah, it was amazing today. Really good. So
I think you did a really great game early on by scoring the Vitch point early on, which was really key, I think. But also you stopped the Land Raider and the Spartan in their tracks.
Yeah. So I know, like, the threats, sorry to interrupt you.
Go.
But yeah, I know they're obviously massive threats and I know how low scoring these missions can be. So the objectives being, well, 2 of the objectives being slightly closer to my deployment zone.
Sure.
I thought, it's best to make a kind of a big impact and then try and defend them as much as I can. So yeah, that's what I tried to do, really. So
it was good, and that Voltrax I think was really key with peeling those hull points off the 2 Land Raiders. Did a really great job.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's in the list. The list lacks a little bit of anti-tank, like hard anti-tank.
What?
Hold up. Hard anti-tank.
I may disagree, if that's all right.
Such as like Land Raiders and stuff, I struggle with armour value 14 without that. So other tanks not so much, of course. But
yeah, that's a really good point. Nick, a little unlucky, you were so unlucky to those sabres died early on and you lost the Arcus, which was quite key, I think. Tell me about your game.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a tactical misdeployment at the beginning. I think the Spartan went off to one side to try and support an objective, and if I'd ploughed up the middle, it probably would have been more effective.
Yeah.
Losing 2 tanks on one flank in the first turn did rather create a traffic jam.
Yeah.
And then obviously having a tactical squad piling out, yes, it meant they were on an objective and they did contest that and so save some points. But it also meant they were very soft, juicy targets sat right out on a flank and, ended up with 2 tactical squads, couldn't be further apart from each other across the table. And not really enough in the middle, which was a combination of not great initial deployment and some fairly heroically bad rolling in the first turn or two.
Yeah, it has to be said. I think, Josh, your rolling was pretty good today, I have to say.
I'd say other than like the first turn, I got a little bit unlucky with some of the shooting. The rest of the turns were like, solid or even better. So, I think overall, dice rolling was great.
It was.
Really above average, so...
But credit to Nick, though, he pulled off some Fury of the Legion, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he did take down the Voltrax with combined firepower from a few units and then a massive charge from Alexis Pollux.
Yeah, that felt like a bit of a redemption move.
It was really good.
Even if he did get shot in the face in the next turn, he had at least managed to get out of his spot and chomp across sort of 15, 16 inches of board and punch the drone in the face.
Yeah. I think board-wise, though, I think the board was a little bit tough for manoeuvrability. There was a lot of stuff in the way. I always favour these kind of heavily line-of-sight blocking boards rather than sort of open boards. So I don't know if that helped or hindered you in any way. How do you feel about that?
To be fair, I think, it would be very easy to blame the board.
Sure.
I think there were certainly points... for the most part, my line of sight was not an issue. As I say, bad deployment of the Spartan and the Lamb Raider could have really swapped positions at the start.
Okay.
I don't think the board really was the issue, but it was great to have such a thematic board for this game, and I think that was probably worth more than a victory.
Okay, that's cool. I think my personal opinion is I think it did work really well. It really stopped a lot of because I used to play Mechanicum myself, and I know the ranges of those Castellax or the Darkfires, and I was just worried that the Castellax were just going to ping off those high strength, low AP shots, and it would shoot you down before you got half across the board. So I tried to mitigate that as much as possible. So
I think certainly long range weapons being boosted at long range also made a big difference. Suddenly twin linking a weapon from half the board away makes a big difference when it's coming in as a nasty weapon to begin with.
Yeah, I think you use your Warlord trait really well.
Yeah, I was happy with that. I obviously sat him next to the Thanatar for most of the game, and being able to twin link that shot is crazy good. But towards the end of the game, being able to put on a Castellax, that Warlord trait really was great. So yeah.
It worked well. I think the Blokes put up a really great fight. A good win for the Mechanicum there in the end. I'm not biased because I collect Mechanicum, but
there were red dice everywhere. I'm just, it's no issue.
It was a bit wild. I do think the Fist put up a good job, and you did play to the mission towards the end of the game, which did boost your victory points at the end, so it was really good. This game was really great to watch, and the two armies are great, like I said, right at the beginning of the game. So hopefully you can tempt one or two of them back, maybe different opponents, I think, or same again. I don't know. We'll have to work it out. But hopefully we can tempt them back. It'll be great. Now, I know you are both on Instagram. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Nick, where can we find you?
Unfortunately named a bit like school email addresses. You may regret it at a later date, but Captain_Fisty
Brilliant.
On Instagram will find me, yes.
And Josh?
So mine's at JW_Wargaming. So
fantastic. That's good. And those are on the bottom of the screen. So note them down, give them a follow. The channel is also on Instagram, so please go there and have a look at the photos. Ton of photos are taken, and they are, as always, on the Facebook page when this game is released. Gents, thank you so much for your efforts today. I know we started early. We finished, I think it's about 6:30, 7 o'clock we finished. So a good day's play, I think.
Absolutely.
Great fun.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. We'll try and get back as quick as we can, and we'll see you in the next game.